it's extant. If I ask you, is the Eiffel Tower extant? You're going to say, well, yeah, of course. So we're done. Once it's clear to me that you're going to engage in verbal deceptive tactics, there's no point in me trusting you any further. Okay?
All right.
Question, what does extent mean?
What?
What does extent mean?
It means it's actual. It exists. As opposed to it's come and it's gone. Okay? Like, for example, the Titanic, as sailing on the seven seas, is no longer extant, but it's extant at the bottom of the ocean. Okay? Abraham Lincoln is no longer extant. He's dead in the ground. He's not walking around living. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Could I just say something real quick, Darth?
What's your username?
Genos. I have the Trump with the glasses as the profile picture. I did just want to say that with your question about the parent element being present, it generally just it would depend, because sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. If like there was a specific example, then that question could be answered with objective certainty.
No,
Yes.
the parent element could not be present because it has decayed into the daughter element.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I guess if you're asking for element, if you ask for isotope,
did you just say yeah, but?
I said yes, well.
Okay, good. So when we have a parent element and it decays into the daughter element, now, does the parent element still exist?
Well, yeah, the element does. The isotope
No,
not.
sir. No, sir. Does the parent element still exist?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. That's why we call it the daughter element. The parent element decays over time, atomically, allegedly, or putatively. It putatively decays into the daughter element.
But we derive the age from how much has actually been decayed. There would have to have been.
Sir, listen to me.
No, I'm listening to you.
No, you listen to me. God isn't real because I said so.
That's another issue. Okay, listen carefully. Okay, I'm fully aware of other nuances dealing with radiometric isotope dating. I make no claim to expertise, but I have enough working knowledge that I can converse on this. Okay, now, if you want to say that there's another element that is like the parent element, that's a different story. What I'm saying is the precise parent element, has the parent element decayed into the daughter element?
That's just objectively false.
Okay,
because
you don't know what.
Hold on. Can I please speak? Can I please actually speak instead of getting cut off?
No, sir. We're done. You're speaking out of ignorance. Okay. The parent element.
You're not letting me explain my position.
The parent element. Listen to me carefully.
When you don't know what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Does the parent element decay into the daughter element?
Yes, and you can determine the age based on how much the parent element has decayed.
You're not understanding here, smarty pants.
No, you're not understanding, smarty pants.
Are you a teen? Okay, all right, you're a moron. All right, you don't
call
want
me
to learn.
Smarty pants, but I call you smarty pants, and it's a problem.
And do you know why? It's because you're a precocious teenager and you don't know what you're talking about. You are confusing the retrodictive extrapolation based upon the starting point of the daughter element counting backwards.
No, we're not.
Based upon the rate of decay. Okay, yeah. All right, you're muted. Okay. Do we count backwards from the daughter element based upon the rate of atomic decay to the parent element?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did the daughter element come from?
The daughter element is decayed from the parent element.
Right. Does that parent element still exist?
It can. Yes. It depends on the specific circumstance.
No. You're an idiot. Yes. You don't know what you're talking. Okay. I'm not going to keep doing this with you. You're an idiot. Have a nice day. Typical precocious teenager. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
Can you let him explain?
No, I don't need to explain it because I'll explain it to you. Okay. So, for example, the parent element is hold on a second. I'll mute this person. The parent element, okay, putatively decays over time based upon the rate of atomic decay, half-life decay, into the daughter element. The parent element becomes the daughter element. Okay? The parent element is no longer the parent element. It becomes the daughter element. Now, we'll see if this guy's a real rocket surgeon. Real simple question. Does the parent element become, through atomic decay, the daughter element?
Yes.
Good. Then the parent element is no longer extant because it's become the daughter element.
Can you please just give me like 45 seconds to explain without being interrupted, please?
Are you trying to suggest that there are other elements that are like the parent element that are still extant?
Can you rephrase the question, please? Sorry, you cut out.
Okay. The parent element, when you count backwards from the daughter element based upon the half-life decay to the parent element, okay, are you able to determine with precision that is not based upon untestable assumptions what the precise atomic state was when it began to decay? See, dead silence.
I mean, can I think before I answer? I'm sorry that I'm not reading from a script.
Because no, it's not a matter of reading from a script. Is you don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'm thinking about potential circumstances. I'm actively evaluating my argument instead of just reading from a script. Can you give me a moment, please?
I'm going to ask you a question. How old are you?
20.
Are you? Okay, good. Then you're just out of your teens. You're demonstrating your youthful ignorance here. You don't know what you're talking about.
I'm a major in chemistry. I'm pretty confident that I know a little bit more.
Then what you need to do is go to your dean of your college or university and get a refund because they're not doing a very good job. Whoever's been teaching you or how you have learned about. Okay, and I have a server mute if you overtalk me. Now, then you must have very bad textbooks because you're not well informed about radiometric isotope dating. Now,
well, you're not very well informed either. You can determine.
You know something? I listen to me. I don't suffer fools very long. This is not a room like any other room where young men come in here and bicker and unzip their pants and say, I have a longer schlong than you do. Okay? That's not going on here. Okay? Now listen carefully. How are you able How are you able to ascertain with accuracy and precision what the precise atomic state was when it began to decay? How are you able to do so with precision that is not based upon an untestable assumption?
Well, I mean, there's no way to prove exactly what it was when it was created, but it is a fairly reasonable assumption to assume that at its creation it was 100% of itself.
Listen to me. Did you specifically address my question? And let's see how smart you are. Did you answer my question? No, you didn't.
Yes.
Let me tell you why you didn't, 20-year-old college boy, okay? What was the question that I asked you? Let's see, college boy, if you actually paid attention to what was my question.
The question that you asked is if there was a way to prove what its composition was at its creation rather than an untestable assumption.
Right. Now, did you give me an answer of how you were able to, with precision, determine what the precise atomic state was when it began to decay?
Yes.
And what is that methodology?
That there is no way to test it, but it is a reasonable assumption.
Okay, so you just admitted that it's an assumption, right?
Yeah. I admitted I don't have a time machine. Yeah.
Sir, okay, right. So
But I
did you
mean,
just
if
admit?
you can,
Oh, hey,
but you can
listen to
recreate
me.
the
Hey, listen.
isotopes in a
Shut
laboratory
up.
and then
Listen to
measure
me.
its rate of
Okay.
decay. You
All
can.
right. All right. Yeah. You see, this is why I am loath to talking with young males on here because they're so precocious. They think they're so fucking smart when they're not. Okay, especially when they're
He
college
talked about
students.
rates of
Okay.
decay.
Yeah, why do it, dude?
Okay.
Why do it?
Yeah. Hey.
You're
Please
literally
do
I think
not
he
still
brought up a
heckle
great point.
server.
or
Like,
okay.
you
You're
spend
server
50 hours a week.
muted.
You're a
You're
6-year-old
server
man. Don't you have grandkids?
muted. You're
Don't you
gonna
have
be server.
grandkids?
Yeah,
Like,
keep
don't you
on
have a
going.
fucking
You're
life
server
outside?
muted. There you go. You're server muted. Okay, you want to heckle? You got server muted. No, this is what this young college student, and I don't even believe he's a college
He's
student.
actually
I
doing
think he's
well.
lying. I think he's a precocious high school student. Okay, he thinks he knows more than he does. I can't believe that he's even a college student.
He hasn't said anything
Okay,
wrong yet. He's
now
made valid
when
points.
I
Like, this
said,
is
are
not
you able to
relevant
determine with
criticism.
precision what the precise atomic state was? Originally, he said yes. Then, when I asked him for greater specificity, he admitted that it was an assumption. He says, no, we don't have a time machine. Okay? So this guy is just bullshitting and doing what young males do is that they try to be verbose and pretend like they know what they're talking about when they don't. The dead giveaway is that when you ask them very precise questions, that they give an answer that dances around the question while pretending they're answering the question when they don't. He just admitted that the parent element is an assumption. He admitted that it was untestable. Okay. Why? Because it no longer exists. It turned into or it decayed into the daughter element. Okay.
Hey, Darth, I have a
Look,
question.
I make no claims that I'm an expert on radiometric isotope dating, but I have enough basic working knowledge that I know that when people like this so-called college boy, which I don't believe he's a college boy. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. My BS meter goes off. Go ahead, sir.
So I have two questions technically.
Didn't I already talk?
First,
Didn't I already talk with you?
yes, and then you started talking to what was the other guy? He had like a Warhammer 40K logo.
Okay, go
Um,
ahead.
yeah. So the first question is it a reasonable inference if you see a room that has red paint and yellow paint and orange paint that the person in the middle that the person mixed the two colors to get orange paint instead of just buying orange paint?
Might be.
Okay. So by that same extension, would it not be a reasonable inference that you find a sample that has a certain isotope and another isotope that we have determined decays?
It's only reasonable when you presuppose naturalism.
Well, we have testing that shows that some isotopes decay into other isotopes.
Okay, Captain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna try to figure out how I can ask this question so it's clear to you and everybody else.
Okay.
It was a legit point.
If young Earth creationism is true,
mm-hmm.
what would that mean for the extrapolations based upon the examination of isotopes in rocks and extrapolating backwards?
He didn't presuppose
that
naturalism. That's a stupid
predictive
argument.
models are deceptive?
No, it would mean that their retrodictive extrapolations are wrong because they are operating from a priori paradigms, okay, that they're going to need the a priori paradigms to be true in order to, in the hopes of being to be correctly reasoned retrodictively. So is radiometric isotope dating dependent upon some paradigmatic presupposition?
No.
Yeah, the world operates in regular manner.
Yeah, okay. No. I think you're confusing that with uniformitarianism. Okay. Now, the world operating in some regular matters is one thing versus uniformitarianism. Do you know what uniformitarianism is?
Please refresh my memory. I'm blanking.
Okay. Uniformitarianism is a concept within the realm of geology that says the key to the past is the present, which is similar to, but not the same thing as the uniformity of nature. Now, when people endeavor to do geological surveys or evaluations and then engage in a retrodictive explanation, what they used to do is they would have, because of the influence of Christianity, they used to hold to catastrophism. They used to hold to the idea that the Earth and the universe were young, rather it was old. Then in about the mid to the late 19th century, there were people rising up like Charles Lyell or James Hutton, who were objecting to the biblical paradigm and were offering a different paradigm, which was that the earth was old. This was a paradigm, okay? Now, do you agree that at that time it was paradigmatic?
I don't know enough about the history to make a statement about that.
Okay. If I say to you that the universe is old, is that a paradigm?
Yes and no.
Right.
It can be a conclusion.
No, yes, but it can also be a paradigm from which you filter and interpret other sense datum. Okay? And the same is true for young Earth creationism. Young Earth creationism is both a paradigm and a conclusion. And so is an old universe and an old Earth. They're both paradigmatic, right?
So how do we determine which one is correct?
That's a good question. Now, let's get back to, and I'll address that momentarily, but we need to get back to the issue of an old Earth and an old universe and dealing with radiometric isotope dating. Now, when it comes to rocks, if one were to operate from, let me just go back a little bit. All observations or sense datum that we come into contact with that we refer to as observations are inherently theory laden. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I have a question to clarify though. What about machine, like a pressure sensor? Is the number that it gives theory laden?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Why?
Why? Because you're presupposing the paradigm that the external physical world is real. You're presupposing that the machine and parts in question possess identity. You're presupposing that they possess identity over time. You're presupposing the causal principle. You're presupposing that the world around us operates in some regular ways as opposed to the appearance therein. Aren't you?
Okay, so basic philosophy is what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, what we're talking about that we have a variety of pillars or fundamental parameters which cannot be proven by science themselves, but are adopted as real, true states. And then we from those beliefs we interpret sense datum that we come into contact with. Now, when it comes to radiometric isotope dating and rocks, if we start with the paradigm of young Earth creationism, then the extrapolation from a putative daughter element backwards to a putative parent element, that retrodiction will be false with respect to the paradigm of the young Earth creationists. So in order to have a correct retrodictive extrapolation from a putative daughter element to the parent element, you have to have a paradigm that is conducive or commensurate with that retrodiction, right? Isn't that correct?
Could you please rephrase it? I was thinking about something and
when you come to certain conclusions or that you might call observations, but there are no neutral observations. The conclusions are derived from an inherently theory-laden system. And that theory-laden system is governed by one or more paradigms. For example, one of the greatest books in the history of the philosophy of science, which I have yet to read and I really want to read to it, is called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Thomas Kuhn. It's required reading for anybody who takes any courses in the philosophy of science. And Kuhn says that science doesn't make revolutionary steps by individual discoveries, but by paradigm changes. And it is the paradigms that we hold to or that we abandon and adopt new paradigms that give rise to new filters and means of interpreting sense data. Okay.
So, like from flat Earth to the globe Earth, that was a paradigm shift.
No, that's a myth that there was ever a widespread belief in a flat Earth. That's a myth. Okay.
That's not a myth.
Okay?
That's actually true.
People have heard this. This is false. Even the ancient Greeks knew by measuring the movement of shadows. They were able to calculate with almost mathematical precision the circumference of the Earth. Okay, so this idea that it was widespread is false. Okay, now is it the case that some people somewhere may have believed that? Sure, but this was not widespread. Okay, so getting back to radiometric
isolation. Yes, it was.
I mean, it was in medieval Europe. It was.
No, sir. No. That is categorically 100% false. And if you don't believe me, look up the work by a scholar. It's called "The Myth of the Flat Earth," where he shows that it is entirely historically false that in medieval times there was widespread belief in a flat Earth. This is historically
medieval.
false.
It wasn't medieval times.
By medieval times, yes, but it was late antiquity when the Greeks discovered that the Earth was round.
No, it wasn't.
Before that,
it was
most people thought
400 BC.
The Chinese, Aztecs.
Sir,
that guy's
listen
right.
to me carefully.
I don't know who you're calling.
It may be the case that there were some isolated people here and there that might have believed it, but there was not widespread belief that the Earth was flat. You cannot show that historically. Okay, so stop.
Can you show there was widespread belief that it was round?
Okay. Well, when they look at the sun being round and circular, they look at the moon, and they recognize that the moon was spherical. It doesn't take a rocket surgeon even back then to come to the conjecture that the Earth is probably spherical.
The question was, can you show
ancient sun and the moon?
Look, we're not going to get on it. We're not going to get on a tangent.
Answer the question.
We're not going to get on a tangent off of the topic onto flat Earthism. Okay. Now, the bottom line is this: it wasn't that the Greeks discovered that the Earth was spherical. They used mathematics to, at least according to their calculations, confirm what they believed.
That's a discovery, idiots. That's how discoveries work.
Getting back to radiometric isotope dating, with who was the gentleman I was talking to?
Captain Cosmic here.
Okay.
Better example of paradigm shift then would be what was it? Heliocentrism transitioning from Earth centrism.
Right. From the Aristotelian view, okay, to the Copernican view. Okay, which would be,
so that would be a paradigm shift.
Yes, that was a paradigm shift. Okay, and so
was that paradigm shift not? Oh, sorry.
That?
Was that paradigm shift not caused by a congregate of data to go from Earth-centric to heliocentric?
No. Yes.
No, what it was based upon was that Copernicus, with the discovery of the telescope, and he observed the movements of the planets. He noticed that there were certain anomalies or perturbations in the movement of planets, which appeared that sometimes the planets, and they didn't understand they were planets like we understand them now, but they seemed to have what was called like a retrograde. Okay, some of them seemed to be moving backwards, right? And so Copernicus, being the genius that he was in calculations, he realized that the Aristotelian view of the geocentric view, although it could explain to a certain degree these perturbations, that a heliocentric view offered more accuracy with predictive capability.
And that's what we have with old Earth.
Oh, new data. Yeah,
no,
new data.
That's incorrect. That's a false equivalency, which I will begin. Excuse me.
Jack is watching.
Okay, that's wonderful. So comparing.
Hey Darth, fake it till you make it. He jumps in
Earth,
the voice call.
Okay. Do you guys really want me to lock down the room? Okay. Do you want to ruin it for everybody?
Nigger.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. If I have any more outbursts, I will just server mute everybody's microphone, and you will ruin it for everybody else. All I have to do is type in 5 letters. Okay. So if you want to be an asshole and you want to ruin it for everybody, you want to ruin it for somebody spontaneously trying to ask a question without being disruptive. If you want to be an asshole, like the asshole that you are, then I'll just server mute everybody and I'll just keep Cosmic open. So you just let me know if you want to make it worse for everybody, okay? So Cosmic.
Yeah.
So you've given a false equivalency, okay? Because there's a difference between predictive capability versus a retrodictive explanation. Do you understand the difference?
I understand the difference. I fail to see how.
Okay. Because retrodiction is not the same as prediction. Retrodiction, prediction. Do you understand the difference?
I have a clarifying question to see if I understand this.
Now, yeah, go ahead.
All right, so kind of keeping in subject with the radiometric dating. When a paleontologist predicts where and when a fossil is that not a prediction?
You think I haven't heard this?
I'm sure you have. I'm just asking to clarify, see if I understand what you're talking about.
Are you referring to a specific fossil that you have in mind?
Yeah, Tiktaalik. It was predicted to be found in a certain geological layer based on models.
And did they not tell you that layers beneath Tiktaalik they found footprints of tetrapods?
Yes.
Oops.
Well, no, because they predicted that.
No. You're what you're experiencing right now is what is called a resistance to falsification. Okay. Now, even certain predictions that might come true do not ipso facto make the theoretical construct correct. You would need a long list of successful predictions in order to increasingly convince people of the accuracy of the theory, but still, still won't do that. So, for example, do you remember my discussion about instrumentalism versus realism?
Predicting defined Tiktaalik.
The difference between it's just pragmatically useful versus it's actually.
It doesn't matter. Many scientists are instrumentalists. Some are realists. Some are a mixture of the two. So predictive success is not a guarantee that the theory is correct.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, it's not a deductive case. It's an inductive case.
Now, typically when you raise the issue about Tiktaalik, the fact that one person made a prediction in a certain location and it came true, this in and of itself does not demonstrate that evolution is true, nor does it demonstrate that it's old. You're going to need to have more than just one or two correct predictions.
Yeah, okay? Well, yeah, it doesn't prove its case on its own, but it's more indicative of it.
No, sir, you're not understanding. Okay, listen carefully. You're making a big mistake about Tiktaalik. Listen carefully. Before I told you, did you know? All right, you are banned. Okay, there you go.
Hey Darth, can you talk when you're done with this fossil conversation?
Do.
What just happened?
I think he's banning an account or something.
Yeah, he's banned. Okay, so Tiktaalik, they found footprints in sedimentary layers below the layers that they found Tiktaalik that were.
Yeah. question about that, about the term transition. Mm-hmm. I would kind of put myself in the middle of gradualism and what's the punctuated equilibrium? Yeah.
Of is it evidence of transition?
Yes, it is evidence.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's where you're wrong. I'm going to read to you from.
Are you trying to pull up the point of punctuated equilibrium?
I'm going to read to you from Dr. Eugene Koonen's book, The Logic of Chance, The Nature and Origin of Biological Evolution. This man is a super genius when it comes to molecular biology, and he's a staunch advocate of the theory of evolution.
How does this disprove Tiktaalik as evidence?
This guy is...
Mine incoming.
Okay. Well, why do you say that? Why do you say that?
It wasn't me. It was someone else.
Yeah, Load, why do you say that?
Hey, Darth, can we talk after you're done this fossil conversation?
Load, why do you say that? I'm speaking to you, Load. Load, do you want to be banned? Okay, welcome to my ban list. Okay, since you don't want to respond to me, you want to heckle, you want to say quote mine incoming. So in other words, notice the knee-jerk reaction.
Hey,
any quotation.
Darth.
Okay, yeah. I'm not going to be interrupted.
I don't want to. I'm sorry. I don't want to get somebody else banned. I was the one that said quote mine incoming. I didn't realize you were talking to somebody else.
Okay, since you're honest, I'm not going to ban you or him. Would you please not do it? Now, if you want to say that I'm quote mining, you're going to have to provide sufficient background information to support that. Other than then that's like I said, well, you gave herpes to your girlfriend. How would you like me doing that?
Oh, well, do you want the background information right now?
Okay, yeah. How do you know that what I'm about to read is quote mining?
Because every single time a creationist quotes an evolutionary biologist about anything, it's quote mine.
Wait, Darth,
good inductive argument.
Sir. Okay.
Good inductive argument. Yeah.
Did you have a question?
Okay. You're muted.
You said something to me.
Okay. Right there, that is not something that you can support. Okay. That is an outrageous, ridiculous global statement. Every time a creationist quotes an evolution, it's quote mining.
Induction.
Really?
Yep.
In my experience, yes.
No, in your experience, did you go back and check the context of all of the quotations?
Yes, really.
Every time I've checked, they have been a quote.
No. Did you check? Did you check the primary material every time a creationist does that? Did you go back to the original context every time and check it?
Every time I have checked it, or somebody else checked it, it's been a quote mine.
No. And how many instances did you check?
Exactly 362.
Great answer.
Okay, so you're lying. Okay, good. Now you're banned for lying. Okay, you're done.
He wasn't lying.
How do you know that was a lie?
362 and a half. Okay,
how do you know that was a lie, Darth?
No, he said 362, not 362 and a half.
How do you know that was a lie, Darth? Like, you're lying.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, so he's banned for lying. Okay, so let's get back to our discussion about paradigms and radiometric isotope dating.
Okay. So what's the quote?
Okay, so here's now you told me that the fossil record is a good exemplar of transition. Okay?
It is. It is a very. It's like a hugely evidence of transition. Yes.
Okay, this is from Dr. Eugene. Okay, this is from Dr. Eugene Koonen from The Logic of Chance, The Nature and Origin of Biological Evolution. It's Koonin, and this is on page 37.
Dr. Koonin.
Dr. Eugene Koonin. Okay?
Eugene Koonin.
Now, when you read this book, it makes your head spin because he's beyond crazy smart. Okay? So here's what he said. Okay, this guy is a staunch evolutionist. He's an expert on not only microbiology but how it relates to the theory of evolution. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what he says. Okay, and by the way, Stephen Jay Gould also concurred with this as well. Okay, now the evolutionists go, "Oh, quote mining." Well, that's the knee-jerk reaction that they make without proof.
How bad is this guy at conversation?
When they are upset when creationists take
what's the quote?
True statements from evolutionists that are being transparent about the problems in the theory of evolution. Okay. All right. I'm going to have to lock down the room. All right. Here we go.
Darth, explicit to your daddy. He's
We'll wait till
Darth, how does it feel for explicit?
Okay. So he's banned now. Okay. He's banned from this room. And he punishes everybody in the room. Okay.
Explicit's your fucking daddy, you little.
Okay, so everybody gets punished because we have these little teenagers with small schlongs, and they wish they had bigger ones, and they want to be real men, but they don't know how to be real men, so they pull this stuff. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so where were we? Who was I talking to here? Captain. Okay, here we go. Okay, Captain.
Yeah.
So you said the FOSSA record is a good example of trend. Okay, so here's Dr. Eugene Cook. The general lack of transitional forms between species in the fossil record is a constant theme in evolutionary biology. Let me repeat that again. The general lack of transitional forms between species in the fossil record is a constant theme in evolutionary biology. Darwin recognized this problem and traditionally interpreted it, along with paleontologists in the Darwinian tradition, as a reflection of the dramatic incompleteness of the record.
Okay? How is this evidence?
In other words,
is not evidence.
The reflection of the dramatic incompletion of the record means that the fossil record doesn't exemplify transition.
No,
it exemplifies stasis.
Idiot. Saying that it's not complete doesn't mean it's not evidence.
Listen to this. Extensive accumulation of paleontological data in the 20th century helped very little, if at all. Let me read this again. Extensive accumulation of paleontological data in the 20th century helped very little, if at all. Do you know what the accumulation of paleontological data is referring to?
I'm assuming the geological column?
No. It's referring to what we call the fossil record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Very
so this
little
is Dr.
still
Eugene
evidence,
Koonin,
like
a staunch advocate of evolution.
He's
brilliant in mathematics and molecular biology. And
The first guy was right that this is a quote mine. Eugene Conan does agree the fossil record is evidence. So Darth was quote mining. The guy he banned was correct and not lying. And Darth is an idiot as normal.
This is how brilliant this guy is. This is no outlier. This is no quack. This book is a defense of the theory of evolution. So what he says about the fossil record is absolutely contradictory to what you said. Extensive accumulation of paleontological data in the 20th century, i.e. the fossil record, helped very little, if at all, so a different perspective emerged. First, I zoomed out, okay?
Mm-hmm.
First in the quantum evolution of George Gaylord Simpson, then in the full-fledged form of punctuated equilibrium concept of Stephen Jay Gould. In other words, there was a knee-jerk reaction that individuals who had the best working knowledge of the fossil record realized, oh shit, okay, all right, let me lock down.
It's your daddy. He's gonna fuck you in that. That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna intellectually shit on you.
Well, every time they circumvent these means, then I
Jack
just go to the founders and give me more power. Okay, it's wonderful. So now we're going to just have to change the coding. Comparing somebody new enters the
Darth,
room,
fake it till you make it. TJump in the voice.
They're going to be blocked as well. It's just a matter of coding. You guys really want me to lock down the room? Okay, so Cosmic. Okay, let me continue. So Gould and Eldridge popularized punctuated equilibrium. Now, you invoked punctuated equilibrium earlier, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. They would never have needed to come up with this concept or advocated for it had the fossil record exemplified transition rather than stasis. So the very theory itself of punctuated equilibrium is an indictment upon the fossil record exemplifying transition. Okay? So
wouldn't that be a better example of conclusions based on evidence because they didn't find the evidence there?
You're not understanding. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Punctuated equilibrium is a kind of ad hoc maneuver in order to explain away the bankruptcy of the fossil record.
And how do you know that?
Why? Because the theory that let me read this to you again. Dr. Eugene Koonin is stating it right. The general lack of transitional forms between fossils, the species, and the fossil record is a constant theme in evolutionary biology. Darwin recognized this problem and traditionally interpreted it, along with paleontologists in the Darwinian tradition, as a reflection of the dramatic incompleteness of the record. However, extensive accumulation of paleontological data in the 20th century helped very little, if at all. So a different perspective emerged. Why did this perspective emerge?
Because the data didn't support the previous view of full gradualism.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So that this theory arose in order to explain away in an ad hoc maneuver the problem that the fossil record does not indicate gradualism or transition. It exemplifies stasis. So in order to account for the theory of evolution being true and the evidence that the fossil record exemplifies stasis, they had to come up with a new theory to explain the stasis in the fossil record. So Dr. Eugene Koonin is saying precisely what I am saying to you.
No, he's not. That's stupid. Saying that it's still evidence of evolution. He's just arguing for punctuated equilibrium evolution rather than gradual evolution in just a singular fashion. This is still evidence of evolution. It's like, what an idiot.
Gould and Eldridge collected extensive data indicating the history of the great majority of animal species, as reflected in the fossil record, represented mostly stasis.
Yeah, this is one of the quote mines that are like the most common creationist quote mines. So that first guy was just perfect. Knew it was a quote mine.
Eldridge, the ones who came up with punctuated equilibrium, or at best popularized it, collective extensive evidence indicating that the history of the great majority of animal species, as reflected in the fossil record, represents mostly stasis. That is a virtual lack of change.
Do you know what that mostly means? What an idiot.
Appearance of species followed by a rapid replacement of new species. The implication of this pervasive pattern is that speciation is rapid compared to the duration of stasis. That is, he's talking about the ad hoc maneuver of punctuated equilibrium. Punctuated equilibrium is put on the table to explain away the glaring problem in the fossil record. Okay? So, what we have here is a decisive quote. Is it quote mining? No. Okay. Is it out of context? No. So you are of the belief, as many people out there, unless you get into graduate levels, or maybe at an undergraduate level, you'll learn that the fossil record exemplifies stasis rather than transition. But the popular representation of the fossil record that you will consume out there, usually in documentaries, is that the fossil record is good evidentiary support for gradualism, which it is not.
Could you tell me what again is the name of the book and the page? I'm trying to find the quote.
It is.
I'm hearing what you're saying, but
it is The Logic of Chance, the Nature and Origin of Biological Evolution by Dr. Eugene Koonin, Koonin.
All right, what's the page number?
The page number is starting at the bottom of page 37. Here, and the title of the section is Punctuated Equilibrium and the Inadequacy of Gradualism.
All right, preview pages. Indexes, page 5. Oh, gotta go down. 13. Page, all right, sorry, one more time. Page number.
37. Last paragraph on page 37.
Alrighty. History. Principle is challenged the simplicity by homosappies. By gene and genome duplication. Yeah, today.
The bottom line is this: you've been duped to believe that the fossil record is an excellent exemplar of transition, partly because, for example, if you
it's evidence. That's all you need. He claimed it was evidence, and absolutely nothing Darth has said in the past 20 minutes contradicts that. It's still evidence.
And then they're placed in sequential order.
Mm-hmm.
But the order is completely conjectural. it's based upon homology. That's saying, well,
no, it's based upon where they actually show up in the geological hierarchy. So it's not hypothetical. What an idiot.
Ancestor descendant relationship. You know, over 10 years ago, I asked a PhD in evolution. I forget what his name was. I should have written it down. I said, Doctor, what is the empirical methodology to show an ancestor descendant relationship between any mineralized fossil? He started laughing. I said, why are you laughing? And he goes, because you know the answer. He goes, just by you asking me the question. He goes, I know that you know the answer. I said, well, why don't you tell the audience? And he says, there is none. Okay? There is no empirical methodology to show an ancestor-descendant relationship. What there is a conjecture and extrapolation, which is not an empirical methodology per se to show an ancestor-descendant relationship. It's because they already believe already.
Well, he thinks he's smart for this. Like, obviously, we can't show one rock came from a different rock. We're just looking at fossils. So how do we infer that the different rocks came from different rocks? Well, we look at their structure. So if we find rocks that are fossilized of a human child, then it came from a human fossil. Duh. This is not an impressive point.
You told me that the fossil record exemplified good evidentiary support for the general theory of evolution and that it represented transition. But it doesn't. I run into this problem year after year after year with people because they've been brainwashed from the evolutionary propaganda that they get from museums or documentaries or maybe high school or undergraduate works, that the fossil record is this great evidentiary support. It's not. It's, in fact, the so-called fossil record is what you would expect to find if there was a massive worldwide geological upheaval resulting in numerous tsunamis flooding the continents recurrently, resulting in the flooding of the continent.
There's not enough water for that, idiot.
You would have certain animal groups that would be buried, but the ones that were buried would just be few and far between.
No, that would be moronic, because then you wouldn't expect them to be buried in a particular order with one species on one layer and a different layer on a different species on a different layer. That's just absolutely stupid.
Because their flesh and their bones would decay. So the fossil record, contrary to widespread belief in academia, it is more commensurate with a worldwide flood than it actually is a Darwinian gradualism.
So what I'm reading here on a book by a Sir Donald R. Prothero, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Prothero.
Puts the point that punctuated equilibrium had its basis in current. Sorry, reading a message. Current.
Oh, hold on a second.
Biological theory.
Hold on a second. Where'd you get that from?
Huh?
Where'd you get that information from?
Oh, a bunch of people have been messaging me stuff
with
different books.
Who messaged that to you?
Why does this matter? It's evidence.
What was the guy's name? Come on, Discord. Go to the actual stupid messages.
Is he going to ban him because he got the contradictory information from a bad source?
Some guy named Freeze Peach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here.
He's on the ban list. It's just banned. Uh-oh.
And who else is sending you messages with information?
Oh, you probably just banned him.
Free Speech is the one that's doing most of it. Other people are just sending me messages that I was reading.
Okay, Free Speech. Have I ever dealt with you in the past?
He says he can't voice chat. He's doing messaging.
Oh, how convenient. Bye-bye, Free Speech.
Just because someone can't voice chat doesn't mean that they're deceptive. Just maybe they're at work or something.
No, sir. You don't know what's in my notes on his account, do you?
No. don't know how to read your account notes.
No, that's right. Okay, so I have notes on him, my friend. Okay.
Notes. What do the notes say?
I'm not going to get into it at this time. Okay, but okay. I keep notes, people, so that when they show their ugly faces a week, a month, a year from now, I know.
Notes on me?
Do I have any notes on you? Let me just. It sent you. It says here that you sent me several homoerotic pictures.
Wait, what?
I'm joking.
Do you want some? I could get some pretty easily.
No, okay. I wouldn't. Okay, and if you did, I would report you to Discord.
Okay.
Do you have homosexual tendencies? Is that why you don't believe in God?
No. That was a discovery on my part. Way afterwards. It had nothing to do with my as you would call it, fall from grace.
What's your discovery?
Oh, that Chris Hemsworth is hot. Same thing with Scarlett Johansson.
So you do have homosexual proclivities.
Yeah.
Okay. Why am I not surprised?
I don't know.
Why? Because it's a common trait among many unbelievers.
Oh.
And priests.
Well,
okay.
I can confidently say that it had nothing to do with my, as you would say, fall from grace.
I seriously doubt that. Okay.
Well, so you can doubt it all you want, but it's the truth.
Explain to me how you went from believing in God to not believing in God.
All right. Well, my biography for that is as such. Was raised by Bible-believing Christians.
No. I didn't ask you about your biography. I said, explain to me how you went from believing in God to not believing in God. Okay, that's not a request for your biography.
Oh, okay. The transition from believing to not believing went as such. I wanted to convince friends of the truth of Christianity. Got into listening to debates.
No, you're giving me biography again. How did you come to believe that there is no God?
I came to believe that there is no God. There is no Christian God, because that's the only one I'm concerned with.
No. I didn't. No, see, this is classically what you unbelievers do. You do a bait and switch. Now,
I'm not saying that
do you believe that there's a supreme being and a creator of all things that are not himself?
No, I don't believe in that God.
Oh, okay. So when you gave me that answer, you did a classic bait and switch that atheists.
You're talking about the Christian God, though,
sir. Okay, sir. Did you hear what I just said? I said to you, explain to me how you went from believing in God to not believing in God, and what your response is. This is a typical habit that unbelievers have, is that rather than explain global atheism, you go to local atheism. Now, I want you to explain to me how you came to believe. What was it that clicked where you said, oh, there is no creator God?
Okay, I'm confused now.
There's nothing confusing. How did you decide there is no God?
I didn't decide that. I don't believe it.
You did decide it because you once believed that he did, and then you came to believe that he did not. So you made a decision that
about the Christian God.
The proposition, again, are you going to bait and switch again?
I was a Christian, and I stopped being a Christian.
All right, listen to me. I'm going to move on to somebody else if you do it again. You see, I'm asking you about why you believe there is no God, and every time I inquire about this, you do bait and switch. Okay? Now, you are going from global atheism to local atheism. Now, I've corrected you twice that you're doing bait and switch. Do you think I'm so old and feeble like Joe Biden that I don't know what you're doing? Now, we'll try it again. How did you come to believe there is no creator God?
How did I come to believe that there is no creator God? I came to that belief inductively through the lack of evidence.
Good answer.
Okay. So you believe that the God world is false,
Mm-hmm.
which means you believe that the not God world is true because the God world is unconvincing?
There's no evidence. Convincing doesn't matter here.
Because it was unconvincing.
You believe in the not God world because the God world is unconvincing.
Yes.
Okay.
If we're doing a
That is
dichotomy
called,
like that, then yes.
That's called an argumentum ad ignorantum fallacy. That's called an appeal to ignorance.
No, it's not. Saying I don't know, therefore.
If there
some
are only two
alternative
options,
no,
and one of them does not
Did you
is not explanatory.
Are you going to ignore what I said? Do you know what an appeal to ignorance is?
I do know what you just described it. Yes, and I
Good.
don't think that was what I did.
That is exactly what you did. Okay, the appeal to ignorance. You correct me if I'm wrong. An appeal to ignorance is that a proposition is true because it's is true solely on the grounds that its negation is unconvincing. Is that an appeal to ignorance?
Because its negation
I'll
is.
repeat it again. A proposition is true solely on the grounds that its negation is unconvincing. The not God world is true solely on the grounds that its negation, the God world, is unconvincing.
I wouldn't say
position.
solely, but that is a part of it.
Then no, sir. Then the point is that's a non sequitur. You can no longer use that aspect. So you're going to have to move on to something else that is cogent, because the first answer you gave me is an appeal to ignorance.
Okay. Then I would say that the next step in that process of not believing in God was there was evidence I would have expected if the God world was true, and I did not find it.
And what would you necessarily expect to see if a creator God existed that you say is missing?
Well, as you put it, I would expect that all facts are derived from him or it, or whatever gender it is.
That's a global statement. That's not missing evidence.
Wait, what? Say that again.
That's not missing evidence. That's just a global declaration. What you're saying is all facts don't derive from God. How do you support that global statement?
Because I have one fact that doesn't derive from him.
And what is that?
The definitional truth of 2 + 2 = 4.
Oh my God! And how old are you?
27.
Okay, you're 27 years old, and you're saying that abstract concepts in the relationships exist with independence from God. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And how did you determine that?
Because at no point in the deduction of 2 + 2 = 4 did I reference God.
That's an appeal. That's an appeal to ignorance.
No, because if
God was there, you're not understanding it. You're not understanding it. What you're saying is, God does not exist because abstract objects exist with independence from God. That's your position, correct?
That's not an argument from ignorance.
Good. How did you determine that abstract objects exist with independence from God? How do you know that?
If he existed, he would necessarily have to be referenced in the deduction. And I didn't.
No. Sir, listen to me. In order for abstract objects, we necessarily... Okay, so what you're saying is abstract objects are evidence of God because God is not necessary. You understand that's your position? Abstract objects are evidence of a not God world because God is not necessary.
Yes.
Okay, that's fallacious, because all you're simply saying is the not God world is true because God doesn't exist. Okay? When you say X doesn't need God, you're just simply saying God doesn't exist. To say God is not necessary is the equivalent of saying God does not exist. So let me repeat that again. Do you understand and do you understand and do you accept as true that to say that God is not necessary in whatever form is the same thing as saying God doesn't exist?
Under your strict definition, yeah.
No,
agree with that.
sir. We're not doing that bullshit here. Okay? Listen carefully. We're not going to go, well, in your world, no, we're not doing that bullshit here. Okay? That's dishonest. Now, is the statement God is not necessary for Y or X, is the sub proposition God is not necessary, is that equivalent to saying God doesn't exist? Of course it is. You just don't want to admit it. That's why you're silent.
No, I'm thinking.
To say that God is... Look, listen carefully.
Okay.
When we talk about God being the supreme being and the creator of all things that are not himself, under that definition, God is defined as being the necessary precondition.
Okay.
So if you say that God is not necessary for X, you're just simply saying is X exists without God existing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So all you're just simply saying is God doesn't exist.
It's evidence that he doesn't exist.
You're not understanding this. It's going right over your head. To say God is not necessary, regardless of what verbiage you add to it, whatever Christmas ornaments you add to it. When you say God is not necessary, that is the same thing as saying God does not exist. So when you say abstract objects are real or they are extant and don't need God, you're just simply saying is abstract objects exist because God doesn't exist. Okay, that's just an add-on. Okay, they exist without God because
Yo,
God
Darth,
doesn't
what do you
exist.
think of the manhole, Darth? What do you?
They're trolling right now, just spamming.
Prove the case of necessity by stating a fact that does not contain a reference?
You listen carefully, when you say God is not necessary, that is the same thing as saying God doesn't exist because God is defined as being necessary. If God is not necessary, then God doesn't exist.
Okay. So
now,
wait. I gotta say something.
You wait, because I'm not the one who's confused about this. So you said God does not exist because there are abstract objects that don't necessitate God. Now, that's fallacious because you're just simply saying is because what you're just simply saying is abstract objects exist without reference to the necessity of God. So you are baking into your reasoning that God doesn't exist. Okay? No, you may not. Just wait. So do you understand that when you say, when I invoke abstract objects, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a concrete object or an abstract object, okay? Before I continue, do you understand it makes no difference whether you're invoking a concrete or an abstract object? Do you understand it makes no difference?
Sure, let's go with it.
Okay, so and we'll try to simplify this so people can get a handle on it, because most people don't know about abstract objects, okay? If you say that X, I invoke X, God does not exist because I can invoke God, I can invoke X without the necessity of God. Well, that's not an argument that God doesn't exist. You're just saying it exists because it exists without God existing. God doesn't exist because X exists without God existing.
Yeah, and if God existed, he would have to.
No, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Nigger.
God does not exist. All right, hold on. We got to lock this down.
I mean, it follows that if he's necessary for all facts.
No, sir, you're making another elementary mistake here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, this lockdown's not working.
Huh.
All right, hopefully, okay, it's working now. Does not exist because X exists in a world where God doesn't exist. You understand your problem?
Say that again.
You're saying God does not exist because X exists in a world where God doesn't exist. That's your position.
I don't feel like that's what I'm saying.
No. Did you say X exists? You can invoke X without referencing the necessity of God? God does not exist because I can invoke X without referencing the necessity of God.
Yes.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, this is begging the question. So
what?
How did you determine that X exists with independence from God? How'd you determine that? This is literally what you're saying. God does not exist because X can be invoked without referencing the necessity of God. But when you say without referencing the necessity of God, it is the same thing as saying because God doesn't exist. Do you understand your mistake? Now, if you don't understand, I've explained this to you 4 times already.
Yeah, and I feel like you're not getting the point that if God existed, he'd have to be referenced.
No, sir. No, listen to me. I've explained this to you 4 times. I'm going to explain it to you one more time. If you don't get it, then either one of 2 things is true. You're either intellectual incapable of understanding it, or you're just practicing resistance to falsification.
Well, you're not
you say
explaining
God
it well
does not. Okay, all right. Okay, you want to be okay, smartass. I did explain it well. Okay, you don't want to understand it because then it means that it will be incumbent upon you to admit that your reasoning is false. Okay, now I'm going to give you one more chance. Okay,
this guy is correct. The fact that you don't logically need to invoke God to explain basic logical statements proves it's not necessary, because necessary means it's logically impossible to invoke anything without the reference to whatever you're talking about. So Cosmic, the guy who's speaking, is correct. He's right. It's not necessary to have God to do that.
If you say X is invoked without the necessity of God, therefore God does not exist. That's your position. Are we clear?
All right, sorry. One more time. Say it again.
Okay, you're saying, I'm going to clarify it to you. You are saying X is invoked without the necessity of God, therefore God does not exist.
Yes.
Okay, that's begging the question. You're baking in the conclusion into the premise.
It's not baked into the second premise.
Yes, it is. Shall I go over it again with you? If you say X is invoked without referencing the necessity of God, therefore God does not exist. Is that your position?
Yes.
Because it is. Good.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say X is invoked without referencing the necessity of God, when you say without the necessity of God, that is the same thing as saying God does not exist. Okay, do you see your mistake?
Sorry, I'm trying to trying to parse it out.
X is invoked without the necessity of referencing the necessity of God. X is invoked without the necessity of referencing God. If you make that statement, then it's the same thing as saying God doesn't exist.
No, it's a counterpoint to the statement that God has to exist.
Okay. You told me you're in your 20s?
Yes, I'm 27.
Okay. Then you're not getting this, okay? X is invoked as actual without referencing the necessity of God. When you tack on without referencing the necessity of God, okay? The phrase without the necessity of God is the equivalent of saying God does not exist. This is not complicated. God is defined as being the necessary precondition of all things. So objects will either be invoked with reference to the necessity of God or without. So if an object is invoked as being with reference to the necessity of God, then it follows from that that's an indirect way of saying God exists. If you say the negative of that, it is an indirect way of saying God does not exist. So to say X can be invoked without referencing the necessity of God, the clause without the necessity of God is another way of saying God doesn't exist. This is not something that you can dispute. This is ironclad.
I'm struggling to find the words because it's
okay.
I feel
is
like
God defined? We're gonna go over this rudimentarily.
Yeah.
Is God defined as being the necessary precondition of all things?
Yes.
Now, if I say that God is not necessary, like if I said to somebody, why do you believe God does not exist? And they say, well, because God is not necessary. Do you realize that is the same thing as saying God does not exist?
In a roundabout way, because God, if he's defined...
No. If you say God is not necessary for whatever, that is the same thing as saying God doesn't exist.
Yeah, because if he was
right, okay,
existing,
so now you agree with me, right?
I feel like you're. Oh yeah, I agree with you on this point. Sure, let's move forward.
Okay, good. So when you say abstract objects can be invoked without referencing the necessity of God, you are smuggling in that God does not exist into the premises when you invoke the conclusion.
No, I don't think that's what I'm doing.
That's exactly what you're doing. If I say X can be invoked without referencing the necessity of God, therefore God doesn't exist. Okay?
Yeah.
The statement without the necessity of God is the equivalent of saying God doesn't exist.
No, I'm stating I'm stating an inference.
Hold on a second. Do you know how many times I've been over this with you? To say God is not necessary is the same thing as saying God doesn't exist. Are we clear? If you say God is not necessary, that is equivalent to saying God doesn't exist. Let me ask you this question. Is something that does not exist, can it be a necessary precondition if it doesn't exist?
No.
That's right. So when you say God is not necessary, is that the same thing as saying God doesn't exist?
Yes.
Good. So when you say X is invoked without referencing the necessity of God, you have smuggled in to that statement that God doesn't exist, and then you're saying, therefore, God doesn't exist.
I'm not smuggling in because What I'm doing is I'm...
Wait, hold on. Stop. My head is going to explode, okay?
You better
to use a
take some
metaphor.
aspirin,
You're 27 years old.
then.
I should expect this kind of trouble with a 17-year-old. Listen carefully. If you say God is not necessary, is that the same as saying God doesn't exist?
Yes.
Good. So when you say X can be invoked as actual without the necessity of God, the statement without the necessity of God is the same thing as saying God doesn't exist. Are we clear?
There is a semantic difference between those two statements.
Wow, dude, you can't possibly be this stupid. What you're trying to do now is to save face. You do not want to admit your elementary mistake here because you want to save face in the room. If you say God is not necessary, that equals saying God does not exist. So when you say that X can be invoked without the necessity of God, it is saying X is invoked and God doesn't exist. Okay?
I'm going to make a clarification statement so that hopefully we can clear up some confusion.
I'm really getting fed up here with you. There's nothing needed to be clarified.
Myself.
If you say, well, then frustration isn't on my part because I've gone over this over and over and over and over and over and over again with you.
Okay.
Now,
what I'm saying
if you
is
say,
Wait.
no, listen, I'm not the one
goodness.
who's confused here. Yeah, I'm not the one who's confused. If you say X is invoked as actual without referencing the necessity of God, within that statement, it is equivalent to saying God doesn't exist and X also exists in a realm where God doesn't exist. X exists in a realm where God doesn't exist. That's your position. Is it true X is invoked as actual in a realm where God doesn't exist?
Yes.
X is real in a realm where God doesn't exist. It makes no difference if you say it that way or if you say X is invoked without referencing the necessity of God. They mean the same thing. God doesn't exist. Okay? So when you say God does not exist because I can invoke X without reference to the necessity of God, you are smuggling in that God doesn't exist into your reasoning, okay, before you get to your conclusion. X is invoked in a realm where God doesn't exist, therefore God doesn't exist. That's your position. Are we clear now?
So, what
Are
I'm
we
saying...
clear? Are we clear? Your position is X is invoked in a realm where God doesn't exist.
Yes.
X is invoked without referencing the necessity of God. Are the two statements the same? Listen carefully. X exists without the necessity of God. Is that the same proposition as saying X exists? Let me rephrase this. X is invoked without referencing the necessity of God, and X is invoked in a realm where God doesn't exist. They are the same proposition, but put in different statements. You understand that the same proposition can be expressed in different statements.
I understand that.
So you're making the same proposition. It's just worded differently in both statements, but it's the same proposition.
How about I proposit my nuts in your mouth?
Are we clear?
I am understanding what you're saying. I'm disagreeing with you.
Listen to me. Are both statements the same proposition?
Yes. I am invoking facts.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Without the necessity of God. Which means...
Listen to me.
Yes.
Listen, dude, I'm really getting pissed with you because I've gone over this with you over and over again. The statement X is invoked and God doesn't exist, okay? X exists coextensively where God does not exist. That is the same proposition as to say that X is invoked without reference to the necessity of God. It is the same proposition, but in different words. So when you say God does not exist, because you say X is invoked without reference to the necessity of God, therefore God doesn't exist. When you make the statement without reference to the necessity of God is the same statement as saying God doesn't exist. You have smuggled in your conclusion into your reasoning.
Okay. Are we
clear now what you're doing?
We're clear. I'd like to rephrase my second premise so that it doesn't do that.
No, there's not a rephrasing of it. You now have to tell me why God doesn't exist.
Because there is no logical contradiction between saying...
Okay, stop right there. Did you just think that up by yourself, or did somebody send that to you in a DM?
I thought of it myself. I've been trying to think of some way to...
All right, you're lying. You're done. Bye-bye. Okay. That's a lie. Okay? This is a recent popular sophist answer that's saying that the not God world doesn't contain an internal contradiction. That does not establish whether or not I'm aware as to whether there's an internal contradiction. Okay? Doesn't entail that the not God world is true. Okay? Now, just to be clear, to show you that I am a fair person, all right? Are you saying that God doesn't exist because atheism does not entail an internal contradiction?
I'm saying God does not exist because the statement...
I want you to answer my fucking question instead of rewording my...
Saying God does not exist is saying atheism is true, idiots.
...exist because the not God stipulation doesn't contain an internal contradiction. Is that your position?
Yes. So if you think God is a necessary being that exists in all possible worlds...
It doesn't follow that there's not an internal contradiction.
It does if you define God as a necessary being.
No, sir. Listen to me. You are a fucking dishonest young man and an embarrassment when you're 27 years old. I have been working with you over the last 45 minutes, being patient. I'm so pissed that I'm actually dropping the F-bomb, which I shouldn't do. I'm wrong for doing that. Now, listen to me carefully. Just because there's not an internal contradiction doesn't make it true, okay? So, for example, if I say to you, there is a unicorn with a pretty tail. Now, does a unicorn with a pretty tail contain an internal contradiction?
No.
Good. So is it true?
No.
Okay. So the fact that there's not an internal contradiction, it doesn't follow from that it's true.
Okay.
So when you say that God does not exist because the stipulation that the not God world is true because you are unaware of an internal contradiction, it doesn't follow from that God does not exist. Okay, this is another... See, you picked this up either recently or somebody DM'd that to you. This is the latest sophist line of reasoning that is going around. Now, we've been over your rationales. Now, God does not exist because, and do not repeat what you have said before because it has been sufficiently debunked.
Don't use the argument.
God does not exist because...
and this is why.
Okay, have a nice day, sir. You are in denial, and denial ain't just a river in Egypt. Okay? This is how craven and how deceptive you atheists are. Okay? I've explained to you already that the 3 lines of reasoning that you gave already are fallacious. Right? But you're too dishonest because you're so accustomed to bickering on Discord that you think bickering and verbal gaslighting and verbosity is going to fool people. Maybe that fools a lot of people, but it doesn't fool me. It took me more than a half an hour going over and over and over and over again to explain to you that when you say X is invoked without reference to the necessity of God, the statement, there is no necessity of God, is the same thing that God doesn't exist. And it took you forever to agree with that. I can't imagine that you are this intellectually inept. I don't think you are. Because if I thought you were, I wouldn't have wasted all this time on you. Okay, the floor is open.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Is this fake it till you make it? No.
Yep.
Because
Yes.
you're up too. So you don't know how to talk like an adult, okay? Because when I talked with you the last time, you told me that abstract laws of logic stand in causal relations. Okay.
What? No, I didn't. I said we were talking about
reality.
reality.
Yeah, you did. Explain to me. Explain to me how you know that everything dictates everything. How do you know that?
Well, it's like
here we go again. This is going to be a repeat of the same bullshit.
I'm literally trying to answer.
He didn't even get a single word out, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
holy shit!
No, but you don't understand because you're a broken record.
Okay, so the answer is like you said, using your own words, when God causes himself, it can be self-reflective, referring to itself. So when we say reality causes reality,
okay. Oh my God, you're going to make my head. Okay, yeah. Listen to me.
How is that a problem?
Okay. What is it singularly and concretely that dictates all instances?
Well, there doesn't need to be a singular or a concrete thing. That's not a part of the premise.
So there's nothing. Then what you have is a plurality of things that may or may not be bringing about anything. Okay?
No, that's not in the premise either. That's not a part of the premise.
Let me ask you this question. Is the causal principle true?
It may or may not be. That's not a part of the premise of the
argument. No, sir. In order for you to talk about any cause and effect, okay, are all instances spontaneous occurrences and acausal?
Well, that may be, but that's not a part of the argument. So why are you bringing up?
Okay, Tom, you're a broken record. This is why I don't like you.
You haven't addressed my argument. Like my argument doesn't include any of that.
Listen, Tom, we've been through this before. You think you're smart and you're not. You're just verbose. You have the gift of gab. It's very simple. Now,
irony.
In order for you, okay, I ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are all events or instances causal or acausal?
They may or may not be. That is not a premise in my argument.
No. Hey, listen, dipwad. Answer the question.
Dumbass, answer my argument.
Okay, bye. You see, all right. You're
objecting to things that are not in my argument is not addressing the argument.
You're a moron. That's why even the atheists realize you're a moron. Okay? See, this is what he does. He's the prince of equivocation. Well, they may or may not be. That's not an answer to my question. What he should say if he was going to be transparent is either yes, all instances, okay, are causal, okay, or no, they're not causal, or I don't know. Okay? Now, how hard is that?
They may or may not be, not exactly that.
Either all events
what
are causal or they're acausal. Now, he goes, well, they may or may not be. How is that an answer? What if he says they may or may not be? Why doesn't he just say, I don't have the foggiest idea?
Because it's not relevant to the argument I made. That was not one of the things I said in the argument.
He doesn't want to say that. Hold on a second. Hold on. Now, I'm removing the lockdown on the room. I want everybody to locally mute your microphones. Okay, if you don't locally mute your microphone, okay, so let's see. It takes a minute for it to undo. Let me just do this.
if God is defined as a necessary being, showing
hold on a
thing
second.
that
Hold
doesn't
on a second. No. Your welcome is warned out. Okay, I gave you an enormous amount of time, and you decided you wanted to be deceptive while you're pretending to be intellectual and discuss and debate the issue. But you are a same thing as to say that God does not exist. So when you say that X can be invoked without the necessity of God, what you're saying is X is invoked in a realm where God does not exist. Therefore, God does not exist. This isn't complicated. This isn't rocket surgery. Now, why isn't this lockdown? Oh, I know. Okay, because some of these people may be not server muted. No, that can't be. I don't know why the lockdown's not working. Okay, so if you want, if you want to be unserver muted, you need to leave and come back. But if the heckling starts, I'll just lock the room down again. It just takes me a couple of keystrokes. I don't care. Okay, who was the gentleman who wanted to speak with me?
That'd be me.
Who?
Captain.
Okay. Do you have problems comprehending social cues?
It's gonna call him autistic.
No.
Do you, here, I'll say it slowly. Do you have problems with social cues?
No, but I have problems
How many
with
times did I tell you that I was done with you? Did I not tell you multiple times I'm done with you?
It's fine, but I wasn't done talking. I was trying to explain a point.
Okay. Oh my gosh. And this is why some people have to get restraining orders. Okay. There was somebody else who wanted to speak. You gotta love fake it till you make it. Okay. Are events causal or acausal? Well, they may or may not be.
Yeah, the statement
Does the
reality
Earth
causes reality
doesn't
doesn't take
to
any
me.
of those.
You're not welcome to speak because you know what? I'm beginning to believe in aliens. Okay, that you're an alien because you don't respond like a human being. Okay, I'm beginning to suspect that you're an AI that is. Now, if I said to somebody, imagine I said to somebody, do you believe? Does anybody want to answer a question for me about the sun? Anybody want to play guinea pig? Come on, somebody give me a volunteer.
I'll do it. I got you, Darth.
So the argument was reality with reality. That statement doesn't entail one way or the other whether or not everything is causing itself, or if there's one ultimate cause, whether it's physical, doesn't make a difference here. So asking that question is irrelevant to the statement. Reality causes reality. So it wasn't really relevant.
If you said, well, it may or may not rotate on its axis, okay, why don't you just be honest and just say, I don't know.
So true.
To sit there and say, in order to say it may or may not be, is simply verbiage intended to deceive.
If I made a claim that like the world is flat and he asked, well, does it rotate on its axis? That's not relevant to whether or not it's flat. And so having a question that's irrelevant to the claim is called a red herring fallacy.
Job, fake it till you make it, TJump is. This guy is a nut job. I asked him if events or instances or are causal or acausal. It's a simple question. Are events causal or acausal? Right?
And what does that have to do with the claim I made?
Yes, no, or you say, I don't know. But he knows if he answers, I don't know, okay, then he's going to look foolish because therefore, whenever time he invokes any kind of events and any putative relationship between events, he's going to be invoking something either explicitly or implicitly, in virtue of something he doesn't know. Okay? But he doesn't want to say yes or no, because if he says yes, then I'm going to say, what is it that dictates any individual event? Is there one concrete thing, or is there a plurality of things that are sporadically maybe causing something, which would be similar to?
Either of those is possible is the answer to that question.
Because you never know whether one thing or another is causing something.
He's just happy that he's making a few bucks off of YouTube right now, so really he doesn't.
What's
true
that?
Facts? True facts.
I didn't hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Darth, all these atheists are streaming right now, making a few bucks.
That's correct. Money.
How much can they possibly make?
I don't know. In donations, $120.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
Well,
generous.
Thank you.
Well, you know what's nice though?
Does God exist because he's necessary, or is he necessary because he exists?
Hold on a second, Mulder. Hold on a second. Okay. Have I ever dealt with you before, Mulder? Mulder, have I ever dealt with you before?
We've spoken before, yes, sir.
And was it a pleasant experience for me?
I can't speak to your experiences, sir.
Has Darth ever spoken to anyone?
Did you get muted earlier?
Experience?
Because you were being disingenuous. Did you get muted earlier?
I got muted earlier because you were being disingenuous.
Right. And did you send me attack messages?
No, I did not.
You haven't sent me a attack message for example, July 30th, 2022. Did you send me attack messages?
You're going back to July and asking me to remember if I sent you.
Excuse me. Did I say July? I meant January. January 30th. I put my reading glasses on. January 30th, 2022. Did you send me?
That's even further back
messages?
than July, Darth.
Did you send me that? Did you send that message? Yeah, you did.
I don't know. Did I?
Okay. Yeah, you did.
Okay. What was the message that I sent you?
Yeah. Okay, you said, unmute the room, coward. Unmute the room, coward. Then you send me another message. Nice straw man argument, you coward. Coward, exclamation point. Unmute the room. Then you wrote another message. Hey, coward, stop hiding in a room. Okay.
Legit?
Yeah.
Why didn't you respond to those?
Because you're a troll. Bye-bye.
All of those messages were legit responses?
Something?
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
Okay, so what is your strongest argument for the existence of God?
That God has constructed the world in such a way that everything is indicative and revelatory by him, by his purpose, that is undeniable and irrefutable. If you do not accept that these things are indicative so that they could be natured entities by his mind and his purpose revealing him, then you are going to be left in silence. You have no other choice but to accept this rationale, or you are going to face an indefensible position resulting in absurdity.
But I didn't hear a single argument for the existence of God.
That's a fake it till you make it.
Actually, okay, if you're going to troll, okay.
That's fake it till you make it answer.
Hey, Odd Rabbit, might as well tell your YouTube channel to stop messaging me and heckling me. Enjoy your few bucks that you're making.
Okay.
Shut up.
Okay.
I'm adding a note to your account. You're blocked.
Okay, so
can I?
Do it. Okay, listen to me carefully. You asked me to give a rationale for why I believe God exists, right?
Yes.
Did I give one?
No.
Yes, I did. I said we know that God exists because God has taken the initiative to reveal that he exists in an undeniable and irrefutable way. Okay? So, for example, if I said to you in the form of a syllogism, in the case that the Christian God exists and he takes the initiative to create a world where he constructs everything to be revelatory and indicative of him in an undeniable way, then we could know that he exists. That's premise one. Premise two, the world around us individually and collectively is indicative and revelatory of God in an undeniable way. Therefore, he exists. Now, the only way that you're going to have to reject that is that you're going to have to say that it is unsound. You can't say it's not valid because it is. It's a valid line of reasoning.
Is false.
Now, what you're going to have to show is that you not accepting premise two is not a defeater. You're going to have to offer a defeater for premise two. Now, your mission, should you choose to accept it, if you're going to say that I haven't given a sound argument, is you now have to offer a defeater for premise 2. Do you have a defeater for premise 2?
No, but my line of reasoning in this regard is different.
Stop. Then what you need to do.
Do you have a justification for premise 2?
Now you're going to have to sit there in silence, and you no longer have grounds to object to my line of reasoning because you just admitted that you have no rebuttal for premise 2. Is my reasoning? Do you know the difference between sound and valid?
Yeah, one is valid, is like it is true, and sound is
right. The syllogism that I gave you, is it valid?
Yeah, but the line of reasoning.
Okay, let's stop. Listen carefully. This is not an argument here. Was my line of reasoning, my syllogism, all I want to know from you, is it valid? Then we'll move on to, is it sound? Was it valid?
I think so, yes.
Okay. Do you object that my syllogism was sound?
I don't know what syllogism is.
A premise 1, premise 2, followed by okay. A syllogism is premise 1, premise 2, conclusion.
Okay.
Okay. Now, so we got a syllogism, premise 1, premise 2, conclusion. You accept that it is valid, but you don't accept that it is sound. So you're going to have to attack premise 2. Okay. Now, if you say that I haven't delivered a sound argument, you don't have the luxury of saying that you're just simply unconvinced. Okay. Because if you're unconvinced, then it's still outstanding if the rationale isn't sound. You not accepting it doesn't mean that the syllogism is unsound. So in order to say that it is unsound, you're going to have to show that the premise 2 is false. Can you do that?
No, but can you repeat your argument again?
Yeah. In the case that the Christian God exists, and he constructs the world in such a way to reveal himself in his creation in an undeniable and irrefutable manner,
okay,
then we
but
can
what
know
is
that
this
he
undeniable
exists.
and irrefutable matter?
Okay, that the revelation itself will be indicative and revelatory in a way that somebody cannot say, no, those things do not. They cannot indicate and reveal God. They would have to instantiate the opposite, that these things are not indicative and revelatory of God. That merely claiming to suspend judgment will not suffice.
So you're assuming in your argument that God exists already, right?
No, sir. Listen to me carefully. If I say to you, if Bigfoot exists, okay, and he appears to human beings in an undeniable way and they're credible witnesses, then we can know Bigfoot exists. There are credible witnesses.
In the Bible? No. Yeah, I understood that. But where's like? Yeah. If I mean to yeah, I do. Yeah.
What the flaw is?
Like what I understood is if something reveals itself, it's undeniable. But I don't see any point where God revealed Himself at any point.
Okay. Did I ask you to comment on the Bigfoot syllogism?
I don't know.
Okay, then I apologize. It's not a problem with your English, is you're ill-equipped to carry on the conversation because I gave you a parallel syllogism, okay, and I asked you to comment on the legitimacy of that, and you completely ignored it. So you're showing me that either you're disingenuous and you're ignoring what I'm saying to you, or you're ill-equipped to carry on the conversation.
No, I think it's more like a language barrier.
No. Okay, good.
Hey, Darth, I think I can ace your quiz.
Okay. No, what they want to do is, see, this is the mentality that the atheists have. They think that if they go, you haven't proven that. Have they proven that we haven't proven that? Is their mere state of incredulity proof that we haven't proven a proposition? Or have they given us a proposition that negates the proposition that we're giving? Or are they just saying, well, I'm unconvinced?
So can I show them something instead of you usually tell the room the answer, right? So let me as an outsider, let me tell you the answer. Bigfoot and God are
one thing.
It's a category error, sir. You're conflating that Bigfoot is in a category other than God.
No, listen. Listen to me. It must drive the atheist. Stop talking until you're invited to talk, or I'll lock down the whole room. Okay. Now, it must look. What's your screen name here? I forgot it. Red Hat.
Yes, sir.
Scroll up to the top. You see how many people are in the room?
My thing's glitched out. Can you just tell me?
Okay. Yeah, there are 74 people in addition to myself in the room. How the atheist must have hemorrhoidal attacks that I have this many people in the room on a regular basis. Okay. And that other atheists are streaming this. Okay. When they all hate my guts. How delicious it is that they're in extreme acute hemorrhoidal pain.
Well, I think a lot of times on YouTube they're laughing this off and taking in the donation dollars.
True facts.
Well, the point is they should just ignore me. Okay.
Why?
My pastor was even talking about you, Darth.
What's that?
My pastor was even talking to you about you at church on Sunday. That's how big you're getting.
Really? Oh my goodness. Yeah. Why is it that I don't believe you?
I'll give you an example, Darth. I have a colleague. When I listen to you, right, he's like, "Oh, I recognize
listen to this. Listen to this. Marshall says his pastor. What kind of church do you go to, Marshall?
It's gotta be a precept.
It's a Baptist
church.
Okay. Is it what kind of Baptist church is it? Because there are different kinds of Baptist churches.
No, it's an independent Baptist. It's not under any
is it a fundamentalist Baptist church?
Why would that be fundamentalist? It's an independent one.
Well, typically independent Baptist church tend to be fundamental. How long have you been a Christian, Marshall?
All my life.
Oh, okay. And hold on one second. I gotta mute somebody here. There we go. Okay. Okay, you've been a Christian all your life?
Yeah, hold on. I gotta.
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
Before I can talk.
No. He's back. I'm gonna mute you if you don't come back on microphone right now. Okay. Now.
Kind of in the bathroom, but okay.
Can you tell me where your Bible is in the house?
It's sitting on my bedside table.
Okay, would you go get it right now, immediately, and bring it back to the microphone?
After I'm done in the bathroom.
Yeah, you better do it. You better do it fast.
I wonder why the gentleman's talking in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Darth is in the
closet. Maybe he has an enlarged prostate.
So Darth, while this gentleman's passing his head, let me tell you something. I have a colleague that listens to.
Hold on a second, Marshall. Stop with the excuses. Yeah. Go get your Bible right now.
I'm peeing right now. Give me a second.
Okay, right. Okay. Yeah. You see, people wonder why I get agitated and I treat the people I do, because I have this never-ending cavalcade of liars and cheaters and disingenuous people and bullshitters and gaslighters. Okay. Yes, fake it till you make it, TJump. Okay. Are events causal or acausal? Well, they may or may not be.
How does that relate to my argument?
Darth, no offense.
Yeah.
But like when you get older, prostates do enlarge. I genuinely hope to mean no offense.
Yeah.
We're talking about prostates?
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Hey Darth, can you point me to where in Van Til's writing he provides the argument for premise one of the tag?
I don't know how you got back in here because you were. Okay, from now on, if anybody trolls, I just won't mute you. I'll just ban you from the room.
The defense of the first premise of the tag. Where can I find that, Darth?
Is there somebody talking? Is there somebody talking? I just heard something.
Not anymore, there isn't.
Oh, Marshall.
It wasn't Marshall.
Okay, Marshall, get your Bible.
I've got to brush my teeth real quick.
Okay, yeah, busted. If you look at his profile, okay, you look at it.
I mean,
he lists on his profile. He said that he was shut up while I'm talking. He says, "Oh, my pastor was talking about you." You look at his profile. He's an environmentalist. He's a Darwinist. He's a skeptic. He's an atheist. He's an LGBTQIA NAMBLA supporter.
We
he's
have
an
Bibles
evolutionist.
Too. NAMBLA.
Okay, he's a nihilist. Yeah, LGBTQIA NAMBLA. That's how I refer to him.
No, that's inaccurate.
Okay. No. It's not.
I said it's inaccurate.
So the LGBTQIA NAMBLA people aren't trying to groom young children?
NAMBLA,
really?
The fact that you are including NAMBLA and LGBTQIA is disgusting to me.
Okay. Yeah, well, I find the LGBTQ alphabet soup mafia thing disgusting too. They're all in the same group that they're trying to
disagree.
normalize
I think pedophilia is worse than any of it.
Okay, well then you know what?
You know what I find disgusting? Not having an argument for premise one of the tags. So Darth, where in Van Til's writing can I find the defense of premise one of the tag?
I like this guy.
Oh my god, I'm not doing this dialogue tree with you, Darth.
No. It's not a dialogue.
He doesn't have an argument for P1 of the tag.
That is, there we go. Gotcha. Okay, there we go. Gotcha.
Actually, that is a good point. Why do facts and intelligibility have to be grounded in the unembodied mind of the Christian God? Could you please tell me that, Darth?
Hold on a second.
Good argument.
Oh, come on, Darth. What? Yes.
Because okay, Nightclot. Okay.
This is gonna ban the people with the good arguments.
Play some more server mutes around here.
Come on, Darth. Tell me why.
While he's muting you folks, all I can wish for you LGBT folk is to go to a man's prison. See how you like it there. Stay out of prison, folks, if you're in the community.
All the men do go there already.
No, I'm talking about
why?
the transgenders. Okay. Stay out of man's prisons.
Yeah, hey, Darth, could you please answer my question?
Okay, all right. You're gone. Okay, I'm just going to tell you right now, if I catch anybody trolling or heckling, I will ban you from the room, okay?
All right, I gotta go to
no
bed.
more server muting.